this PKM opens up on us from 17 meters away. And it was like the flame that shot out of that barrel. It was almost like you could reach out and grab it because it was that dark and you have nods on. And so it's just right up in your face. So PKM opens up, we hit the deck like you're supposed to. And then the entire wall of the compound is just muzzle flashes.
Welcome to Combat Story. I'm Ryan Fugit, and I served Warzone tours as an Army attack helicopter pilot and CIA officer over a 15-year career. I'm fascinated by the experiences of the elite in combat. On this show, I interview some of the best to understand what combat felt like on their front lines. This is Combat Story. Today we complete part 2 of the combat story of Ryan Hendrickson, the former Green Beret who served multiple combat deployments to Afghanistan as part of 7th Special Forces Group. For those who listened to part 1, you'll recall that we followed Ryan's unique upbringing in the Northwest, where at one point he was living in a tent for an entire year, being raised by a single father who had a tremendous impact on his life. Ryan first served in the Navy and Air Force before earning the coveted Green Beret. On his first deployment to Afghanistan with 7th Group, Ryan was leading a patrol, clearing the path of explosives, and, after taking fire during a fight, inadvertently stepped on an IED that changed his life. At the end of part 1, we left off as Ryan was coming to after the dust settled from the blast, and he looked down to see 2 pearl white bones, his tibia and fibula, sticking out of his leg. What happens next is nothing short of remarkable. If you ever felt sorry for yourself, this next session will help give perspective and an example of someone else who overcame tremendous odds to follow his dream, saving lives and inspiring others along the way. Enjoy. Ryan, welcome back to round 2. Thanks for taking the time again.
Yeah, I had a blast round 1, so this is going to be a lot of fun.
So we were just chatting beforehand, and I realized I had forgotten something very important in your life that I read in the book and I know about well, but we didn't really speak too much about it in part 1. So just before we dive into where we left off, I wanted to talk a little bit about what Oregon football meant to you in your life growing up, and then as you kind of came into the teams.
Yeah, so Oregon Ducks football, that is, that's life for me between the Ducks and the Seahawks. It's, Northwest guy, but growing up, yeah, I remember Oregon was never on the map. And then all of a sudden, we start getting good, and we get to I think it was the 94 Rose Bowl against Penn State. And it's like, oh, wow. And so this entire time I'm an Oregon fan, but now we actually have a reason to be fans, and it's great. And then, coaches like legendary Mike Bellotti and stuff like that. So in high school, I went to a football camp at Oregon, and I got to see Mike Bellotti and all this other stuff. And what I didn't, and I had all these dreams. I'm gonna, I had all the VHS tape player of Emmitt Smith, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna be a famous running back, and I'm gonna play in the NFL. And I had it mapped out. All right, number 1. Oregon Ducks are going to want me. So I'm going to go to Oregon, I'm going to go play football for Oregon. Not a big deal. And then I'm probably going to get drafted by the Seahawks. That'll be pretty simple. And then I'll just go from there. Well, what I didn't realize is, I guess when you're running like a 5'8" to a 6'0" 40, you're 5'7" and about 160 pounds. There's really no one looking for you. Number 1. Number 2, when you can't catch the ball, you have zero situational awareness on the field, and you just run and you hit everybody if they're just standing up, whether they have the ball or not. So I basically, I just remember like, hey, what can I do to get better? And my coach, and this was back in the 90s when you can have tough love. My coach was like, really nothing. You're just not good. It's like, all right, so what do I got to do? And he's like, get out of my office.
No way.
Yeah. And so, and he's laughing the whole time because, he sees this drive in me, but I'm just trash. And so they were trying to figure out, they're like, man, we're low on people. We don't have a lot of talent in the school. Where can we put this guy? Because he has a lot of heart. And they're like, nose tackle. Perfect. Just run through and just hit people. And there's a decent chance you're going to end up hitting someone with the ball. And I was like, all right. So yeah, my senior year, I got honorable mention. So they finally found my little niche, but still, again, all my dreams of playing in the NFL and setting every single season rushing records with like 6, 7, 8,000 yards in a single season. That didn't really happen at all,
Didn't happen.
or even close.
And I believe, is it when you check into the team for the first time, you kind of have to start at the top with the command sergeant major, and then they kind of work your way down. But wasn't he also a big Ducks fan?
Yeah. So situational awareness is not my key or my strength. But I remember when I first got to 2nd Battalion, I was checking in out of the Q course and like, hey, here's a new guy. All right, I know how it's going to be. And I'm standing outside the command sergeant major's office, command sergeant major Reary, and I read on, I'm reading like they have this plaque of, this is who I am. And so for some reason, Oregon caught my eye. And so I figured, hey, let me read this. And so I read all through it. And so I had him, Ducks fan and all this other stuff. So I walked in and it was like, where are you from? Oregon. Boom. Entire conversation just completely changed. And so, yeah, so I actually, it was great. And instead of, hey, this is what I expect of you and all this other stuff, it was duck season and how we're going to do. And is Chip Kelly going to be able to fill in the blanks? And by the time I left the office, like, what am I supposed to do? Because I taught ducks for a long time, but well, I guess I'll figure it out. So yeah.
If only the rest of your encounters as you met the rest of the team were like that one, right? Because you kind of go and you stand in the door and you wait, and then you're standing outside for days.
Yeah, I thought I was cool. Graduated the Q course. Hey, I'm a Green Beret now, right? I'm one of you guys. Nah, it didn't. Graduating the Q course was nothing compared. Like you still gotta prove yourself. It's
started zero again, huh?
Yep. You are nobody again. You know nothing, and we don't even care who you are. It's like, all right, it's going to be a lot of fun.
All right, perfect. So now that we got that to the side, because I know it'll come up again, let's go back to where we left off. So you had been on a patrol. You stepped in a doorway, detonate an IED, and you're on the ground. And as we last hear it, you can look down, and after you come to, and you finally see two pearly white bones sticking out of your leg, your boot's kind of off to the side. You've seen you've visually seen this now, and you can't apply the tourniquet yourself, but you're starting to hear other people nearby. Right? So take us from there. What happens next?
So again, once everything cleared up and I was able to actually get some sort of situational awareness, again, not my key point, but but when your boot's off to a 90-degree angle, you figure it out really quickly. But yeah, so I'm starting to kind of fade out, and there's a lot of shock there, and I actually really didn't realize before this injury how dangerous shock is. You hear about it, but I think when I think of people dying, it's blood loss or you just got canoed in the face and you're just going to die. I didn't really think of shock, but I remember I was in such disbelief / shock over what I was seeing down there and I couldn't get my tourniquet on to perform self-aid. Team couldn't get to me because you can't rush to failure, everything we talked about. But I remember laying my head back, and I could kind of lay back and look out of the corner of my eye, and I can see, guys moving towards me, but it's all kind of down this really long hallway, and the voices are all echoey, like, because your ears are still messed up and you got blown up. So yeah. So everything's kind of off at this point. But yeah, at that point in time, I remember I could look back because, there was a point in time when I thought I was like, my team can't come get me. I'm going to die here today. Yeah, it was.
And can I pause you, Ryan? I want to touch on the shock piece because I don't think I understand it as well either. Like,
Mhm.
what did you learn about that at maybe then and then later on as you're recovering? Like, what is shock? What does that mean when that's happening to you?
So I don't exactly know. I don't exactly know what it means. I just know, I mean, I'd been blown up. I'm losing blood, not rapidly, believe it or not. The blast actually, what's the word I'm looking for? Soldered. Or,
Cauterize maybe
yeah,
your arteries?
yeah, some of them. So I'm oozing blood. I'm not, like the movies. I'm not spraying blood everywhere, or anything like that. Um, but it's because your mind can't wrap around, and this is my opinion. I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm not a medical expert, but my mind couldn't wrap around what just happened. And the more I tried, like there was a point in time when I was trying to put my boot back on, but the lower part of my legs in my boot. So I'm trying to move it to angle it because maybe I'm dreaming. Maybe this isn't right, and I'm not seeing things correctly. Let me realign everything. But that was pretty painful, and you just, and then I mean, there's a pain threshold that your body can take until it does what it naturally is supposed to do and shut down, i.e. pass out. And so it was getting to a point, and then I'd start, the pain was so intense that it was just like, all right, I'm just going to go to sleep. I just want to go to sleep. And going to sleep, that's not a good thing. So.
No. Okay, got it. So yeah, you're kind of looking back down the hallway. You notice people moving, and
Mhm.
then how does it play out from here?
So there was a point when I remember I was looking back and I could see, movement, and I can hear people screaming, or not screaming. It's controlled chaos. It's an ODA and a guy just got hit. It's controlled, but it seems chaotic to me. A lot of moving, but it's like it's all slow motion, all very echoey sounds. And then I I could hear guys, yelling, "Stay awake, stay awake, stay awake." Um, but then the next thing I remember after that is getting slapped in the face, and that woke me back up again. So from what I just described with, the echoes and the movement and the stay awake and everything like that, to basically blacking out, to coming to with one of my teammates. They're there finally. So however long that took, I don't know. Probably a couple of minutes to make sure that they could clear up to me. But getting slapped, and then trying to close my eyes again and getting slapped, and then again and getting slapped, and it's like, hey man, quit slapping me. I want to sleep. This hurts. But yeah, that's what led up to my team actually getting on me. And so while that's going on, I could kind of see, guys are trying to clear spots for to in place guys to set up security, because you just can't rush out like, hey, you pull 360, and then all of a sudden you got guys getting blown up. So you actually have to clear up to a spot where you're going to place. All right, hey, I want the 240 right here at point. Okay, clear that area. Okay, I want 249 over here and guys over here, but you're having to clear all these areas. And I remember seeing that because it's an IED area. So and then you just don't move, dude. Don't move, because if we start getting shot at and you guys get up the run, it could be bad. So, and then that's when they started, working on me. Was that?
And they're working on you on the ground there. Certainly, they're prepping a medevac, right? At the same time, like looking for an LZ. Are they still in a firefight at this point when they're pulling security?
So we weren't in a tick at this point. I had just hit the IED.
True.
The Overwatch for us, they were across the river. They were in a tick. So the Taliban that was up on the ridge line started engaging our Overwatch position. So there was gunfire coming from there. But Nick, our Terp, who got blistered up a little bit from or not shrapnel, but rocks and whatnot from the blast. He was back on the ICOM again, and he was reporting, hey, Taliban knows that we hit the IED here, and they want to. They're coming to ambush us. So a hasty ambush or whatnot. And so he's reporting that over the radio. And so all the while our captain is spinning up, the 9-line medevac, or actually at that point, I think he was only giving him like 3 lines because it was urgent surgical, or 4, however many it takes to spin up an aircraft. Right. I think it's like 3, but, and basically it was like, hey, we cannot land there. You guys have to pick him up and move him back. There are IEDs and the enemy's coming in, Taliban are coming in. Like we can't land there. And, there's a point in time, it's like, well, hey, we need to get this guy out of here. And they're like, look, you got a dude on the ground and an entire air crew that could get shot out of the sky. We have to do what's safe. And so, tourniquets, splinting the leg and ace wrapping the crap out of it just to hurry up and pick me up and start moving the 500 to 700 meters back towards an area where it could be cleared. I mean, an area that was clear, and kind of, some sort of protection from what was coming with the with the ambush, and to give us distance so the A-10s could start coming in and doing some work on those dudes.
So if we could just talk a little bit about the tourniquets, right? Because that was kind of a very important evolution, I think, during this war in particular, like the ability to have like single arm use tourniquets that you could put on yourself. At that point with yours, you were saying like you just couldn't get it on. Was it the shock? Was it the position of the wound? Was it the type of equipment you had? What was the trouble for you getting the tourniquet on at that point?
So there's a couple issues I ran into. One of the issues I ran into was just getting the tourniquet unwrapped from itself, because it's all Velcroed up. And my mind, like, probably, a mistake that I made prior to getting blown up is, and that I didn't make again, is I should have been rehearsing putting a tourniquet on me. It deployed at least once a day. Just pull it off your kit, get it on a leg or an arm or something like that. Our medics, they train us up, but it's something that you should actually probably get pretty proficient in, because, I'm in shock. I'm, scared. And I think I'm going to die. And so I'm trying to get this tourniquet opened up, and I got my kit on. I still have my demo bag on my back, and my plates I'm trying to do a sit up to get, so I can actually look at my leg. But every time I look at my leg sticking out at the 90, it's just, oh God, I can't look at this. And so, I'd like to say that I'm a fairly tough dude, but I didn't have any to keep looking down at that leg and to actually save myself, which is, I'm not really proud of that, but it is.
Nobody's passing judgment on that. I was just curious, how could you in that scenario? And I know everybody's sat through, like, I'm sure all the vets here are listening and they're like, oh yeah, I remember like sitting down with the medic and you take this thing off, you got no gear on, you kind of put it on. But like in combat with the shock, all the gear, and you got to look down at the wound itself and how you do that. So that's why I think they had to advance that technology so that it's just a little bit easier to some degree.
It's just getting over the shock. The self-aid part, there's hundreds of guys that have had to perform self-aid. And I can imagine that it wasn't easy for any of them.
No. Yeah. Okay. So they move you. Are we talking like 100 yards, like 100 meters, or?
No, like 700 meters fireman's carry.
Oh, fireman's carry over the shoulder?
Yeah. And then guys taking turns, because, so they had a what was it? The Skedco, but it was all packed up, and it was like, hey, we need to move.
That's like the bench. Is that right? Like they'd put you on what's the Skedco?
The roll up litter where you can like strap a guy in. Right. Yeah. But it was just like, hey, let's go now. And so instead of unpacking the back and getting everything ready to go, again, some of the greatest lessons learned are from incidents where it's like, hey man, next time I'm going to pack the Skedco here. or I'm gonna, or something like that. But yeah, the decision was made, just, hey, pick them up. We got to move, man. We got to get them to medevac. They have a very small window to land, and yeah, because they were coming back from picking up other guys and dropping them off, and then they were like, yeah, hey, you got another run, and so it's back out, and so yeah, there's just this small window of time to get me out of there. Plus the Taliban talking about ambush, hasty ambush. Not to mention they were on the ICOM radio celebrating and cheering, and they played that just music of celebration, how they put it up to the radio. It's like, yeah, and of course, they're talking, I guess, according to our terp, they were saying like, we killed the American, we killed like 20 of them, all this other stuff. So, okay, yeah, well, but I kept that celebration in my mind for rehab and my return.
Yeah. A little motivation.
Mm-hmm.
I think you mentioned in the book, a lot of people have heard of this, but for those who haven't, they call it the golden hour,
Mm-hmm.
right? Could you just talk about that and what it means, and were you within that?
So the golden hour is kind of whenever you put together a mission or whatnot like that, you plan out your HLZs along the way, and they're all within typically an hour from the nearest role facility. So anywhere you go in Afghanistan on a mission, they usually want you within an hour of the bird spinning up, picking you up, and getting you back in. Because if you're within that hour, I guess, I don't know the percentages, but I know your life expectancy is a lot higher than it would be if you're outside of that hour, which is another reason why we have had a very high success rate of dudes that have been injured that would have been dead in other conflicts.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, the golden hour was broke by a couple minutes, maybe 10, 15 minutes, just because of the situation. But, that's 18 deltas, no offense to corpsmen or pararescue, but 18 deltas are pretty good. You'll live if they can get to you. So the golden hour is definitely important, but I also had two stud 18 deltas that were working on me.
So the firemen carry you over to the bird. It's able to land. They're loading you up. Are you able to think about anything else besides the pain at this point? Are you thinking about like, oh, I can't believe I'm coming out of combat? Or is it truly just, I got to focus on this injury right here?
There was a lot of pain because I had a allergic reaction to the morphine, and then in Ryan Hendrickson true fashion, I chewed up my fentanyl lollipop instead of sucking on it. So I was going on almost no pain meds, and when I had the reaction, our Delta, he's like, hey man, I can't give you anything more because I don't know what it's going to do to you because you just had a reaction to this, which I totally understand. And some pain will help you man up a little bit, I guess, in the process. But I was really focused. I was really focused on the pain. But I was also, as they were carrying me over there, I remember this shame and this guilt that I felt that I had let my team down. And so I was, I'm getting carried off the battlefield. I've just been beat. That's the way my mind was working, was I just been beat. I'm getting carried off the battlefield and my team is down a man because, I stepped in a doorway. And so, yeah, I was pretty upset. And yeah, it was tough, but thank God, the pain was able to keep my mind off of, really racing with how much, I let everybody down and whatnot like that. So
do you still, like, looking back on it now, do you still feel that way, that you let them down? Like, I can't imagine, knowing you, I can't imagine you would think that about some other guy on the team if they got injured, right? Like that they were letting the team down. but do you
Yeah.
still look back in a similar way?
No, I don't, not at all. I actually look back now and I learned so many great lessons from that incident, not only combat lessons, but life lessons from that incident. And the guys that I've trained throughout the rest of my career as a Green Beret, I have instilled those lessons into the juniors that I've had, and even Afghan counterparts or Peruvian, Colombian, El Salvadoran, whatever counterparts, that I'm pretty sure I've saved somebody's life by the lesson that I learned, there in Afghanistan.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Great. Okay, so you're flown off the battlefield. How long is it until you make it to like a true care facility? And do you recall this, or that you're kind of starting to, you got the fentanyl, like, are you starting to doze off?
So I do recall the flight. I remember I was able to look down and I could see like the trees flying past us. So we were flying low, map of the earth, I guess, or whatever. I'm not a pilot, but I just wanted to sound
map of the earth. Yeah.
But I remember it didn't really take us that long to get to Tarankout. And when we got to TK, I remember they opened up the helicopter door. Well, the Black Hawk doors, and the ODA that was at TK, a couple of my buddies, they were there to receive me, and they were told that I was dead. And so here's all these guys like, ah, man, Ryan ate it, and these are guys I went through training with because we were all new coming to the company, and I'm there, I think I was on a stretcher at that time, or no, I was still on the ground, but they moved me to a stretcher, and man, they were just like, they were pissed. I thought you were dead. No, I don't think so. It was kind of funny. It's kind of funny, I mean, I guess if you have
it's like a movie scene or something. Like, why are you guys crying? I'm right here.
Yeah, I mean, if you have wounded guy bloopers, that would be like, whoops, should have passed that one on that he's still alive. Our bad. But yeah, so I remember getting to TK, and then I remember I'm getting wheeled on, I guess you call it a gurney, and the nurse and some other people, they received me at the front door, and our medic is debriefing somebody or another. Hey, this is what I gave him. This is what happened to him when he had morphine, this. And the same time, this nurse is cutting all my clothes off. Well, she cuts my top off, and okay. And I'm still, I'm kind of woozing out of it, but I had my Lucky Oregon Ducks t-shirt on. It was, yeah, I'll have to send you the picture of me. It was like 12 hours before I got blown up, but I'm wearing that Oregon Ducks t-shirt, and she's trying to cut it off. And I'm like drunkenly trying to fight her on it. Like, this is my lucky shirt. Just let me take it off. And she's trying to cut it off. Finally, I guess she was like, look at you, man. Is this your lucky shirt? This is the shirt. Like, it's getting cut off. And so I just laid back down, and then I guess I passed out again or something like that. But yeah, I was pretty upset they were cutting that shirt off.
Did you ever get that back?
No, I wanted it. I have one of my teammates actually saved my combat top, and
wow.
Yeah, it's all bloody and everything like that. And I have it in a those compression bags that you can put it in and seal it up. Yeah, I put it in that, and I got it hanging in my closet. I thought that was pretty cool. But
that is,
yeah, I wanted my boot, but I don't think that anybody wanted to retrieve, fleshy boot. So I thought, yeah, but yeah, no, I really wanted that Ducks t-shirt back, but it didn't make it.
Oh, so we hadn't gotten to this point in the show, but at the end of every show, I ask 2 questions to everybody. And one of them is, what did you carry into combat that had like sentimental or a lucky value to you? And I knew reading the book that this was going to be one of them. So we'll save that in case something else came up to replace that. And you could surprise us at the end here. But yeah, that was hysterical in the book, like fighting off this nurse to keep the shirt on.
Yeah.
All right. So that happens. And then what comes next in this long recovery process?
So I remember getting wheeled back and surgery start, and I don't know how it all goes, but debridement or whatnot, and so however many surgeries I have at TK, I'm not sure, but I'm fairly certain that I woke up and they already had bolts going into my tib and my fib, to put a metal bar between to kind of stabilize it, but everything was ace wrapped up, just completely ace wrapped up. So I can't quite remember the events, like how many surgeries I had at TK, how many surgeries I had at CAF, then BAF, then Germany. I know everything totaled to 28 surgeries, but I'm pretty sure it was some debridement, and I had blood transfusions. But at TK, I remember waking up one time, and one of my teammates was there along with a guy on another team, and Dino, he was on my team, and then Calvin was a medic for another team, and they were there. And so when I woke up, they're sitting, in the hospital room that I was in, and it's and we're talking a little bit, and I'm emotional, and Dino's like, "You need to man up, man. This is and all that other stuff." And so we talked for a little bit, and I'm just like, just getting a reality check on things, and then I talked to Calvin a little bit, and someone had given me a note that our Delta on the team wrote, and he wrote this note that said, if you're reading this, you made it. And I think Calvin gave it to me, or someone gave it to me. But I was talking to Calvin a little bit, and he's like, "Hey man, I'm coming through TK right now because I got to get narcs and whatnot like that. We got a big mission coming up, and to the same area, ish, around that area." And he told me, he's like, we're gonna get these fuckers that did this to you, man. And yeah, he was killed on that mission. Yeah. So yeah, that was hard. That's pretty tough. But yeah, that's pretty much what I remember of TK. And then somehow I got to CAF and BAF, and then on to Germany. So.
And it was some new type of surgery or treatment at each of those places, right? So just for people's awareness, like you're coming off the battlefield, like out on the front lines, you go to the small fob of TK, get several surgeries, then you go to Kandahar, larger, then you go to Bagram, which is the beast, right? And each part along the way you're getting treated, and then it's over to Germany.
Yes.
And is that where the majority of the treatment takes place, is in Germany, where you do the recovery, or is it back in the States?
So, no, well, for me, it was back in the States. And so all CAF, basically it was TK to CAF. CAF surgeries were to stabilize me to get to BAF. BAF was to stabilize me to get to Germany. So it took almost 5 days to get me out of Afghanistan, which I'm fairly certain that's a long time. I'm not sure, but I think that's a long time for a medevac. So, and then I get, so at BAF, I have a blood transfusion. I know I have 3 strands of E. coli. Yeah, just is horrible. But so I'm sick, and everyone that comes into my room has to wear those spaceman suits and whatnot. But then I get to, so they stabilize me. I remember getting put on a C-17 with a bunch of wounded guys. Like there was a handful of us in stretchers, and then the walking wounded it just filled the entire aircraft. It was insane. But in TK, or I'm sorry, BAF, C-17 to Germany. And I remember when I landed in Germany, it was amazing, because it's like the minute that they got us off the aircraft and you got away from that fuel smell, it was like it was some of the cleanest air. And regardless if it was or not, it was some of the cleanest and the coolest air I ever breathed, because I just went from a summer in southern Afghanistan, to September in Germany. And I don't know. Man, I did something right because I'm in heaven. This is really nice. And then it's like, oh wait, no, I'm still here because look at my leg and I hurt. So yeah, but it was I'll never forget that, was like how clean the air was, on the tarmac there in Germany is amazing.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
man, I lived in Germany for 3 years with the army, and I can
Yeah.
just appreciate that. And I lived in Europe since then, and there is something about that, just like the
Mhm.
air quality, and also just probably once the fuel smell leaves you, it's kind of
Mhm.
like, all right, Afghanistan's a bit behind me.
Yeah.
I'm sure anytime you smell that now, like if you're at an airport, to me at least, I don't know if it's the pilot in me or just the combat, but it brings back memories when you walk around an
Oh yeah.
airport and you kind of smell the fumes.
Instantly back to walking off the ramp of a C-17, drenched in sweat and moving way too much equipment from there to some sort of holding facility waiting to go out to your fire base. Yep.
Yeah. Damn. Okay, so you go through Germany, you're back in the States. This is a long process, right, to get you back to 100%. And there are a lot of hard decisions along the way, like do we keep the leg or not? Can you talk through what was that like for you?
Yeah. So if there was a good year to get blown up and the right IED to step on for limb salvage, I got blown up in the perfect year with the right IED. And what I mean by that is, so the IED that I stepped on, I think we talked last, it was actually 20 some odd pounds, but broken up into 3 cells, and only 1 cell went off. And so, but the IED that I stepped on was actually, it was very fine cut HME, so it had more of a cutting effect than an actual TNT or dynamite effect, where it just mangles it just wood chips everything. So the blast went up through my foot and exited out at my calf pretty clean. And so it's like, hey, yeah, um, the biggest issues doctors have with saving limbs isn't the bones, it's the tissue damage. And I had extensive tissue damage, but nothing that, you know, at that point in time, it was something that, hey, look, we think we can salvage this leg. It's going to be an exploratory surgery. Chances of it actually working are pretty slim. We're looking at 15%, I think 15-20%, or 10-15%, something like that. And so they're giving, and again, this speaks to the knuckleheadedness of me, but it's a very low percentage chance of working. It's going to be extremely painful, and you probably aren't going to be able to do the stuff that you normally used to do before all this. Prosthetic limbs are absolutely amazing. Nike may sponsor you. You never know, and be back on the football field again. Who knows? No, but all these great things about prosthetic limbs. But if this limb salvage surgery with your leg works, this is going to help advance medical technology when it comes to these types of injuries that, unfortunately, we don't see these types of injuries unless it's coming from the battlefield. It's just we don't have access to these kinds of injuries. So this research, this could actually help somebody if it proves to be successful. And I was like, man, so I got all these painful cons, very little pros, except for the biggest one that, if I could suck it up and just see if it doesn't work, then you were going to lose your leg anyway. So not a big deal. But if it works, that it could possibly help somebody in the future. And it's going to advance medical technology with limb salvage. So I signed the waiver forms and everything like that. And it was basically back into surgery to pretty much reattach my leg. Yeah. So.
How painful is it coming out of each of those surgeries? Are you feeling each and every one of them, and it's just like excruciating pain?
So no, you're so drugged up that it's not. Every time you come out of one of those surgeries, I don't like feeling, that kind of cloudiness and lack of control that all of those drugs they put you on when these guys have been working on your leg for over an hour plus. But the biggest thing I remember is every time they had to pull that tube out of my throat, it like ripped my throat up. And so for a week, my throat just hurts. So I definitely remember, I definitely remember the pain of that. But no, I had nerve blocks in. I was on methadone, Dilaudid. I had fentanyl lollipop box next to my bed. I mean, I don't think that's like you're supposed to be able to do that, but well, they wouldn't have done it unless you were supposed to. But
Yeah.
and I had the little push button thing. So if I need to get, if I can feel the pain again, hit that button and it'll give me a little shot or whatever it does. I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure viewers will know what I'm saying. But yeah, I was on just this huge cocktail of meds for months. And so the pain didn't actually kick in again until I started getting weaned off of the really heavy narcs and rehabilitation. That's when it was like, oh, this is what he was talking about. I mean, I'll ride the K train all day long if you in rehab the best I can while on ketamine, as long as you just keep me on that fix, but it doesn't work that way. It's like, well, that's not fun because pain sucks.
Man. All right. So, and I've heard that the rehab is extremely difficult, painful, as you're describing here. So how long are we talking for this rehab?
So I got to BAMC, I think September 20th ish. So between getting blown up and actually getting to San Antonio, it was like September 22nd or something like that. But so I was released in November 2011. So blown up September 12th, released November 2011. I got to BAMC September 20 something or another, released from the hospital to a long-term living facility to start rehab at the Center for the Intrepid in September, October, November, December, January, probably February. So from February to November, I was in just a straight rehabilitation process. Mm-hmm.
Every day. That's just what you're doing. That's like your full-time job is rehabbing from this thing.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, if the military paid me just to work out just like that, but not be injured, oh man, it'd be the greatest job in the world.
Yeah. During those long months as you're rehabbing and the pain is there, are there other moments where you have to make this choice, like, all right, let me keep the leg, or do I go to the prosthetic?
Yeah, the mental battle was horrible. From some of the darkest points I've ever been in my life, to it was just, man, so there's a couple instances. It's like, I mean, just the pain alone and them trying to wean you off the meds, but it gets to a point to where it just hurts so much. And it's like this constant, it's not this excruciating, hot poker, just jabbing. And it's not, I just got blown up pain. It's just this constant, always there, never going away pain, dull, agonizing pain. And you can take it for a bit. You're like, I can do this. Just man up, man. It's just a little bit of pain, but it starts to wear on you. And I remember one breakdown that I had. I was trying to tear the halos out of my leg, but I'm not that strong. But yeah, I was trying to tear the halos out of my leg because I was done. I was like, I can't take this anymore. And then the nerve blocks and all that nerve medication you're on, and just everything. And then there was also an incident where I felt like I wasn't, and I hate saying it like this, but I'm just going to put it out there. I felt like my injury wasn't getting the respect that it should have, because I was wheeling down the hall, and I remember I had ran across some of these soldiers. They were out smoking, and we were just talking a little bit. You know, I got outside BAMC, you get a little bit of fresh air or whatnot, or outside the hospital, and and I wheel past, and we're just BSing a little bit. And then, we asked what happened to your leg. And I was like, yeah, I stepped on an IED in Afghanistan. And one of the guys, like super innocent, he's like, oh, wow. Well, I'm glad it wasn't that bad, man, because you still have your leg. And it crushed me. It's like, what do you mean? So I was like, well, it was really bad. And then I started to have that mental battle of, am I just that weak? And maybe it wasn't that bad. And I just am so weak that I am building this up to be a bigger deal than it really is. And that was a mental battle that took me, I mean, forever. And there's even points now where I'll look at somebody as like, man, that guy, like, that's a reason to feel sorry for yourself. I was like, man, maybe I blew it out of proportion a little bit. But my doctor is very quick to put me back on, on the you're an idiot on this path, get back on the right path kind of thing. But yeah, just, I mean, the mental minefield that I went through, and it got to a point to where almost daily, and it's winter time, so it's gray and rainy and everything, and it's like almost daily. It's just like, what am I doing, man? This hurts. I can't. I'm filling all these blanks, and I'm not getting any better. And then you start going down with the meds. I started to get depressed. And I started to slowly become a victim of this injury that happened to me. I started letting this injury become me. This is who I am. Poor me. Why did this happen to me? And so now all of a sudden I'm becoming entitled. This entitled mindset. Well, why did this happen to me? This isn't fair. And so I'm not only a victim of my injury, but now I'm becoming entitled. Like, well, this shouldn't have happened to me, And so with that entitlement and that victimization, now I'm really, starting to feel sorry for myself. And it's really, it's put me into this depression. And my dad and I, we had to, he finally, he was like, hey, we need to talk. And it was, look, man, you're going down a very, very dangerous path right now. The path that you're on, if you survive it, because suicide is made from this mindset that you have right now, the path that you're on is either going to make you extremely miserable. You're going to drive everybody away from you, or you're going to just end it. He's like, this is what, and he said, as of right now, you have two options. He said, what happened to you? It was bad. No one's gonna say it wasn't. But you need to understand that it's not the worst thing that's ever happened in combat. That's number one. Number two is you're looking at this injury all wrong. You have two options right now. You can either become your injury. You can let this injury overtake you and make you make you this injury, and you're gonna be miserable. You're gonna drive people away because you'll constantly be looking for people to understand what you went through, and they're never gonna understand. This injury is it's gonna make you miserable to the point to where, when you die, you're going to be so thankful that it's over with, because you've been a miserable person and you let everything pass you by because you became this injury. Or you can use this injury to make yourself a stronger man. You can use this injury to reset your life. You have the golden ticket that most men never get. You have the reset button. You went from you're going to die today till you're still here. So all those things that you were laying alongside the Helmand River, and I wish I would have done this, and I'm sorry I did things like this, and I wish I fill in all the blanks. You actually got the reset button, and you can go back and change those things in your life. You can use this injury to make yourself a stronger man, renew your relationship with God, be that man that builds people up around you instead of tears everybody down. Be that person that for once you learn from this injury and you use it to do your part to make the world a little bit a better place. But I highly recommend that you think hard about the path you're on, because right now you're on a path that's going to lead you to death for sure. Like, you will not make it off this path. And so that, that talk right there really meant a lot to me. But he really drove it home when, he told me, hey, you got dealt a bad card. I mean, this is bad what happens to you, but time's going to keep ticking. You can't stop that. Time is going to move on. But there's one thing that's going to come from this incident right here. When you get to be older, you will look back and you will either, number one, be ashamed of how you handled this situation. You'll look back and you'll be upset because you didn't man up and deal with the situation at hand, or you'll be ashamed. And that's in shame as an old man is bad. That is a lonely, lonely life. Or you're going to look back and you're going to be happy with how you handled this situation. You're going to be proud of yourself because it was something that was bad enough to where this can actually change your life. A lot of things, people are like, well, I needed something to change my life. This will change your life if you allow it to. And if you can look back on this and be proud of how you handled this situation, you will be a happy man. And so that actually meant a lot to me. And I take that lesson with a lot of things in life, as far as like, okay, hey, this is a bad situation, or wow, I shouldn't have done that. I have a lot of those, or whatnot. But how I handle it, I want to make sure that when I'm that old man in my rocking chair, I can look back and be like, yeah, I screwed that up, but you know what? I owned it. Or man, that was horrible, but I did this, and this made my situation better for, first of all, others around me, and then myself. And so I've looked back on a lot of that to try and avoid the poor me, victimization, entitlement mindset, because it is like that's an easy mindset to get into, as we see in America today. And it's dangerous, super dangerous.
So you clearly, first of all, that's really cool. I know the relationship with your dad, we touched on it in the first round. No surprise here that it comes up again. You clearly hit the reset button, like going from that dark time, and we're going to talk about the direction you go, and it's remarkable. But I think it's easy to say, yeah, you hit the reset button, you feel good, but it probably takes a ton of work to turn that around from this dark moment. Is there how did you hit that reset button? Like, you have that meaningful conversation with your old man. Mm-hmm. Is it like you embrace the pain of each day of rehab after that? How do you handle that?
So I'm a human being. I'm constantly hitting the reset button. It's crazy because I'm a human. But what that did, what my dad and I talked about that day, was it actually, so when people talk about I need to get on the right path, or I need to adjust my my heading or whatnot like that, I didn't even know this path. All I knew was lots of pain, poor me, and this is so horrible, this happened to me. I didn't know this other path of man up and accept this, but not only man up, take this opportunity to use this painful incident, because the greatest lessons in life you learn, unfortunately, mostly are through pain. But use this opportunity to take this painful event and capitalize on the lessons learned from it. And so I didn't even know that path. And so what that did was that actually opened up my eyes to, oh, yeah, this is the direction I want my life to go in. This is the man I want to be right here. And so when I finally had this direction to go in now, I don't have to feel sorry for myself. I could go to the right. Then yes, I was constantly trying to get myself back on that path, because again, I mean, it's just part of being a human being. You stray off the path, but I actually had the path to go on. And that's probably what saved my life. Even more than stepping on the IED, was actually being shown there's another way in life. And you don't have to live a life feeling sorry for yourself or entitled, or people just won't, they'll never understand. You don't have to live a selfish life. You can live a life that gives something back to people, that builds up people around you. And I learned that through stepping on IED. And I don't think I would have known that unless I hit that IED that day.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure at some point during that recovery, right, there's a point where you can either decide I'm going to recover from this,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to go and separate from the military or go work a desk job.
Mm-hmm.
But you take this other approach where you're like, not only am I going to recover, I'm going to go back to the teams and go back into the fight. When did that happen? And what the hell was the decision there for you?
So I remember I'm still in the hospital up at Vampsy, I think like 7th floor. And our sergeant major, the same Oregon Ducks guy that I checked in with, he shows up to check on his guys because unfortunately there was a handful of us that had been medevaced out from that trip. It was a pretty bloody trip for our company. But so he's doing his rotations, and of course us Oregon Duck guys, we got to stick together. So he shows up in my hospital room, and he has this plastic Ziploc bag with him, and he's got his little shit-eating grin on his face, whatever. But he shows up and we're talking a little bit, and he goes, "I got something that'll help you out." So he brings out this Oregon Ducks jersey, number 24. I got it on the wall right here, but it's signed by the entire Oregon Ducks football team, awesome. 2010, which they went to the national championship. They didn't win, but anyways, but yeah, it's signed by them. It was signed by the Ducks, and Chip Kelly's on there and all this other stuff. And I'm like, how did you get this? And asking all these questions. Are you gonna take it, man? Because if you don't, I'm gonna take it. So yeah, I grabbed it. Man, I can't believe this. And so we had talked a little bit more, and I'm just I'm in good spirits and everything like that. And then I told him, I was like, hey, I need to make it back. I need to make it back, and I need to go back to war. And I know him. He's, hey man, you barely survived this. How about you worry about getting yourself good, and then we can talk about all this making it back. And but I was I was pretty persistent. And before he left that day, he said, look, if you can get medically cleared, I'll send you back to war. And so I had two driving factors in my mind. Number one was I could hear the Taliban celebrating that they beat me. But I wasn't going to allow them to beat me. They knocked me down and they bloodied me up, but you didn't beat me. I'll be back. And number two is the command sergeant major just said that he gives me his word that he'll send me back to war. And I know 100% he knew I was not going back to war because I was getting medically retired. And so those were my driving factors. And then I get medically retired because of my injuries. I fight and I come back, I get reinstated back on active duty through the continue on active duty waiver, which basically means, hey, we spent a lot of money to train these guys. So instead of kicking him out, he can go sit at a desk somewhere or go train guys as long as his leg will let him. But yeah, we'll keep him till his 20 years so he can at least retire. And then, hey, thank you for your service. Good luck. So I got the waiver, and now it's like, okay, I'm on active duty. So I got, number one, I got the Oregon Ducks jersey, which is pretty sure why they went to the national championship game that year. They just
obviously. Yeah. They would have won if you were their running back, obviously.
That's right. But I have my command sergeant major telling me that if you can get cleared, you'll go back. I have the Taliban laughing at me, and I just got approved to stay on active duty. So now everything else is up to me. And my wrestling coach used to say something back in high school, and he was like, you are not a good wrestler, but you are just too dumb to quit. And that's why you keep winning. And I think he was correct on that. And the fact that when I started rehabbing, I couldn't stop. I couldn't quit. This will happen. And, whether it was, working myself so hard that I just lean over and throw up everywhere, or, rolling into the Center for the Intrepid with a fentanyl lollipop sticking out of my mouth just so I can get through the workout. I knew that it was on me, but I also had some of the greatest physical therapists, doctors, and everything that, again, in my opinion, the military had.
Mm-hmm.
And I had this world-class physical therapist named Johnny Owens. And that dude, there was a lot of people that were like, hey man, look, dude, you're lucky to be alive. You need to manage your expectations. And I'm a huge management expectations guy, because I can say, hey, I'm, like when I joined the military, I'm going to be a Navy SEAL and fly F-14 Tomcats at the same time. Well, I had horrible expectation management at the time. Well, I had people telling me, you need to manage your expectations. You're not going back to war, dude. And what we're worried about is you're going to put so much on it that when it doesn't work out for you, it's going to absolutely destroy you. Yeah. And I understand what they meant, but I'm too stupid to quit. And so I had this goal in my mind, and management expectation gone. And I just kept hitting it as hard as I could. And Johnny, he's like, look, man, if it can happen, we're going to make it happen. And he said, but this is going to be the most pain you've ever been through in your life, because you have to beat the crap out of yourself. Friction grows bone. And I had to grow back some of my tib to connect the bones again from where they were just lined up. And now we need to connect the bones so you have a reattached limb. And so, yeah, it was super painful. Like, I can't even handle getting a shot right now. It was so painful. I don't know. Damn. It was just dumb. I mean, just too stupid to quit.
All right. Yeah. So you eventually get released back to the unit. I can't remember how long it took from the time you were injured, but it's less than 2 years. Is that right?
Yes. So from when I actually started rehab, which would have been in February 2011, I was released back to 7th Group in November 2011.
Oh my God. All right. So let's jump to you returning to the unit. But before you talk about the dynamics of how people are looking at you when you come back, can you describe what was the condition of your foot at that time? Right? Because it's not like you have 2 perfect feet now. It's still, it's still a work in progress, right?
Yeah, well, it's not ever in progress. It's just the work. And that's because it's a skin graft on the bottom of my foot. And I do everything that I'm not supposed to do, like work out the way I work out, or deploy, stuff like that. But yeah, so I had a skin graft on the bottom of my foot because the blast went up through my foot. So it split my foot in half, and then it exited out at my calf. So I have skin grafts basically that make up my leg all the way down to my ankle, and then a skin graft on the bottom of my foot. And so the conditions of them were basically, I was able to rub them raw every single workout, and they would just be sitting there and oozing and pussing and whatnot. But I had a nickname in the hospital, which was Wolverine, because I recovered so quickly, and all my surgeries were first time recoveries. I didn't have bone infection. Skin grafts took, bone grew back. And so they called me Wolverine. Well, I'm pretty sure I should have had multiple infections from, the open sores on my skin grafts, but I never had one infection. So they may actually be correct. I just can't figure out how to get the things that come out of my
yeah.
So, and I'm really weak, and I'm kind of scared of everything. So
right.
But
okay, so that's the condition of your foot. You're back at the unit, and what's that like?
So before, when I get back to 7th Group, it was kind of a rude awakening. It was like, all right, cool, Ryan's back. And I was thinking, same thing when I showed up to group, man, everyone's going to be so happy. And it wasn't that they weren't happy. It's just, they were just like, oh, okay, cool, Ryan's back. Anyways, back to work, kind of thing. But before I could get cleared to deploy, I had to now get cleared by 7th Group. So Big Army has me on a non-deployable dead man's profile. I'm not even supposed to stand longer than 30 minutes, put pressure on my leg. I'm like, yeah, that's going to last pretty long. But we had the Thor 3 program, which is the Army is just super smart in regards to physical therapy and getting, actually taking an injured guy, and instead of throwing him off to the wayside, let's make him better and then continue using him, because we spent a lot of money to get this guy in this position. So they have this program, Thor 3, and it's absolutely amazing. You have world-class physical therapists, personal trainers, athletic trainers, everything. Well, they have this program. It's Return to Fight, or Fit to Fight, or whatever you want to call it. And it's basically for guys that were injured, whether it's combat or a jump, or I had a buddy that went off on a run and hit a pine cone and absolutely snapped everything in his ankle. Oh. But it's to return those guys, get them healthy, strong, and then back to an ODA, and let's go back to our business of doing what ODAs do. And so I show up there, and it's the dead man's profile. But one of the greatest things is they're like, hey, this is a performance-based program. If you prove to us you can do X, Y, and Z, we're going to let you do X, Y, and Z. Well, that's all I needed to hear. So again, I went back to this, I'm going to absolutely beat the crap out of myself and just do everything I possibly can to get myself back to war, fit to fight, and all that other stuff. And by the end of the Thor 3 program, I think 3 months into it, so November, December, January, February. Yeah. So 4 months into the Thor 3 program, I get like, hey man, you're good to deploy, dude. I'm out doing healthy guys and stuff like that. But so I get cleared to deploy. Well, my company is already left for Afghanistan, which is good, because the people that are left in the rear, they don't really know who Ryan Hendrickson is. And so I bring in this profile, and then the waiver, 7th group can waive the big Army profile. And it's like, hey, look, I'm cleared to deploy. And they're like, okay, cool. No one really cares. There's a flight, be here on March, I think it was like 13th, and there's a C-17 heading over to Afghanistan. Cool, man. Orders stamped, and Ryan Hendrickson's going back to war. And Sergeant Major Ruri, he's in Afghanistan at the time. So there was a lot of stars that lined up for me, because I think if the command was there knowing what happened to me, I think they would have been like, whoa, hold on, stud. Let's go ahead and have you do DZSO duties instead of yeah, we'll get you on the next one, promise. Yeah. And so I was able to kind of slide through the cracks, and in March 2012, I was on a C-17 heading back to Afghanistan.
God. All right. So that's like 18 months basically or even less, 16 months, 17 months.
It's 17 months from flash to bang, basically.
Wow. All right. So you roll in, they don't even really know you're coming. I mean, you're on a manifest, and I think people who don't understand how big the Army is would be surprised that you could do that. But I've done stuff like that where, like, we were in Coast and I had to go get a training up in Bath, and people didn't want me to go, but the Army's big and I got there so I could fly a little bit more. Like, you can kind of slip through there. So you roll in. Yeah. They're probably like, holy crap, Ryan's here. So what happened then?
So there wasn't really any holy craps, Ryan's here. It was so, and also what helped me out through all this was I got blown up as a new guy. So no one really even knew who Ryan Hendrickson was. I was on an ODA for 9 months, and then now all of a sudden I'm gone. It's like, who? Okay, whatever. So I show up, and we fly in to Cath, and I get off the aircraft, and we go and we check in, and our sergeant major from Alpha Company, he's there, and he's not happy.
This is not the same sergeant major that you talked about before.
This is a different sergeant major. So not the battalion command sergeant major. This is company sergeant major. Yep. So he's there, and Command Sergeant Major Reary already knew I was coming. But this sergeant major, he's like, look, I don't agree with you being here. Because he was at the Alamo when I got blown up. And so he knew everything from the ground to me getting medevaced out. He knew exactly what happened. He's like, look, I don't agree with you being here. I think you needed more time. But powers that be overrode my decision. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to keep you here at CAF, and you're going to be in a what was it called when you sit in the jock and you monitor AS or ASO or something?
An AS3, a FOBIT. I don't know.
Yeah. But I was going to sit there and basically I can work in the talk and do whatever needed to be done. It's like, well, okay, I'm back, but I'm not going in an ODA. It's like, man, that's not, okay, well, suck it up. I'm back. Great, whatever. So then I meet up with Sergeant Major Reary, and it's, man, this is great. You're back, and I guess I got a promise I got to uphold. So I'm sending you back. Like, the talk is not war. You're going back to an ODA. And he goes, I hope you're ready for this, because you're going to Panjwai District, Kandahar Province, which is in 2012 probably the most IED'd area in Afghanistan. And he said, so I hope you're ready for this, because you want to go back to war. You're going to the war. And it's, man, okay. So that's basically what
Ryan,
happened.
I think there are just a couple things there. First of all, the stones on him to make that call, right? And then he's basically contradicting what his lower, immediate subordinate sergeant major has just told you, and overriding him, and sending you to that guy's company, but deployed, like not deployed, but forward deployed, like going into the battle, basically. Damn.
Yeah. I mean, I think overriding is a powerful word. I think it was more just like, no, you're not sitting here, man. You're going back to war. I don't know, but yeah. So, all right, I'm heading out to Panjwai District. I think, it's a very short flight. So a couple days later, I packed, I got my Contico and ruck and all this stuff, and I'm on a Blackhawk heading out to Firebase or to Talican. So flying out there and show up and get dropped off, and it's like, okay, where's everybody at? Where's the huge party? It's like, no one's here.
Yeah.
And I'm going back to the team that I was with when I got blown up. So some of the uplift guys were there, the infantry uplift guys were there, and they, brought the gate around and packed all my stuff and brought me in. And so we went through the gate, and there's a couple guys that are in the gym and a couple guys just walking around and whatnot. And some guys that, there was new guys on the team, but then a couple of guys that were there when I got blown up, it was like, hey man, it's good to see you. I mean, this place is tough, so good luck, kind of thing. Then another guy's like, hey, you got cleared? Like, you're good to be here? It's like, yeah, I wouldn't have just showed up on my own. He's, man, all right, dude, just, you better let me know if anything comes up. You better be on the horn quickly, because your leg, I don't necessarily agree with you being here. And then a couple guys were very vocal on their disagreement with me being there, and I understood it. Like, at first it confused me, but then I had to look at it through their eyes. Here's this guy who's basically thinking Special Forces is a Make-A-Wish Foundation, and it's like, hey, I want to go play warrior for a little bit, and then, oh yeah, good, all right, come on, that's real cute, buddy. But in the end, it's like, people really die. And so basically it's like, hey, we don't agree with you being here. We were told that you're going to be here. We don't agree with it. The minute you put anybody's life in jeopardy, you're gone. You're gone. And so they were just like, yeah, it is very cold atmosphere, but I understood it. And any of the guys, well, I didn't understand it at the time. I was standing there like, wow, I really messed up. But looking back now, it's the team dynamics, because here it is, it's Panjwai district. IEDs are just tearing up soldiers in Panjwai nonstop. It's Kandahar province. So right off the bat, that cues listeners in, it's a bad area. And it is, I mean, people are dying over there. And now here comes this guy that the last time we saw him, he was almost dead. But now he's back. And if I get hit, he's going to be able to fill in the blanks. Or if we're in a fight and he's going to be able to. And so I understand it. And it took me a while during that deployment to actually be like, okay, that makes sense. Like I understand this. And so I don't hold it against him. I 100% understand why that was the mentality. And slowly but surely, as I started to prove myself and whatnot, I started to bring myself into, back into the team. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah, he is. Okay, yeah, this is good. All right, we got another 18 Charlie here. Good to go. But I hid all my pain from him because I went back way too soon on a newly attached leg, and now you're out on ground movements, jumping over the grape row walls and all this other stuff, and you have at least 80 extra pounds on you. My leg wasn't ready for that, but it was one of those things, like I can't let my team down, and so I just dealt with it.
So let's talk about one of these fights that you get into, because the book's got a couple of them. I mean, very interesting. Can you talk us through one of the tougher ones when you've got this new leg attached to you and how you have to perform?
Yeah. So every time we'd go out on a mission, I'd always rub the skin graft on the bottom of my foot, and I would rub the skin grafts on the side of my leg. They'd get rubbed raw because of the IDEO leg that I wore over, which gave me a calf, and I had, plantar and dorsey and all this other. So I actually had a leg, because without that, I can't really move. I don't have, without that, I'm just dragging around this piece of meat. You put that on, and now all of a sudden I have a leg again, but it rubs my skin grafts raw. So we're moving into one village to conduct a clearance. I don't remember what, but I'm up in the front because I'm a Charlie with mine detector and all this other stuff. And that distinctive crack of 7.62 just rips through the air. And first thing to do, this is multiple firefights into it, but first thing I know to do, which I learned at Benning, well, actually I probably learned it just because I don't know, but is to get cover. You're not going to get concealment. They know where you're at, but I'm going to get cover. And then I'm going to return fire with overwhelming fire superiority, violence of action, until air gets on station. And then air is going to take care of the rest, and we'll go BDA and move on with our life. Yeah, heroes. So what's the first thing that I saw? Well, we always know you never run to cover. You always backtrack to cover because it's been cleared. Once you start running to cover, that's when you start getting blown up, because a lot of the time, this fire that you're taking is harassing fire to suck you into an IED belt. Like, here's a nice mud hut wall. Oh, we're taking fire. Get behind the wall. Boom, boom, boom. You see what I'm saying? So you always regress back. Well, there was this ditch alongside of a compound that jump into the ditch. Because most of the time where there's like soupy, watery substance, they don't have an IED there. It's usually in the more hard, compact grounds where they can actually dig it in and put their pressure plate, and they're not going to short circuit out their batteries with water. So I jump in, and we're returning fire, and this is some good stuff right here. And then air gets on station, the fight's automatically over with, and so now it's like, okay, all right, well, still let's keep our heads down, waiting for anything. What stinks? It's like, man, this is really, really bad. I am knee deep, and something is just absolutely just disgusting. And so, I start to look around, and I had jumped in the village shit trench. And so now I have all these open sores on my leg, and I'm knee deep in human feces. And so it was, we get done, we start moving on. Guys, man, you stink, dude. And it's like, all right. And we still had like a full day. But we finally get back to the fire base and I'm able to get my clothes off and everything like that. And I look down and the skin graft on the bottom of my foot is basically, it's just hanging open and it's all red meat. And then skin grafts on the side of my leg are just all rubbed cherry rods. And what I mean by that is like when you have a blister and then you rip the skin off the blister, all that, I had those all over my leg. That was just submerged in human feces that just went an entire day with human feces in it. And so I knew, because I was hiding a lot of things from the medics at the time, because I was just like, I just need to suck it up. I don't want to go anywhere. It's just, it's just pain. I'll deal with it later. But this I knew is like, nope, I got to tell them. So I went to the senior 18 Delta and was like, hey man, this is what happened. This is what's going on. And he's like, we got to medevac you to CAF, dude. Like, this is dangerous stuff right here. And so I got medevac to CAF. And when I got there, they were like, you're done. You're going to be at CAF until we can make sure you're good to get medevac back to the States. But yeah, you're done in the Panjwai. And so the team packed all my equipment and had it flew over there. But I was just like, what in the hell, man? I just ruined my SF career. They're not ruined it, but I'm pretty sure that this will be the end of my career. People will see that the leg couldn't hold up, skin grafts failed, and I got medevaced out, and I didn't even get shot. I just skin grafts and human feces. So I get medevaced to CAF, and I get all the antibiotics and whatnot. I don't even pretend to know what they are, but they're monitoring me. And at that time, I end up, just like the first sergeant major said, I end up in the talk as AS3. And I didn't want to go back to the States. I knew that if I went back to the States, that was the end of me deploying as a Green Beret. I will never deploy again. So I made myself valuable. And what I mean by that is, I was upset because I wanted to be on the front lines doing all the cool guy stuff. But the underrated guys that are in the back, the support element that's actually filling pallets and getting them flown out to teams. And this team's like, hey man, can you get some of those protein shakes in there or whatnot like that? So I started making myself useful and building pallets and getting them out to aircraft and just being that guy that was, oh yeah, you need ammo, okay, cool, and getting ammo on there and doing all the paperwork and everything like that, to the point to where we need this guy here. He's doing a lot. So I'm doing AS3 stuff. I'm supporting the teams, and it was a killer for me, but I had to own that, and I remember that was one of the times that my dad's speech really, well, not speech, but talk to really came through to me. Was, hey, this was a bad situation and human feces is probably never fun, but you need to own this situation. And so I did. I owned it, and I became a valuable member of rear detachment that was supplying the teams and getting them what they needed. And I just owned it, even though I was butthurt, I wasn't going to become a victim of it. It's like, nope, own this situation. Crappy things happen, but the guys need you, and no one needs you feeling sorry for yourself. And so I did. But there was during my AS3 time and this whole owning my situation experience, I had made some good friends there, and my buddy came up to me and he said, hey, yeah, man, we got this big mission that's coming up. And I was like, oh yeah? He's like, yeah, dude, we're going to be climbing a mountain. And right now we don't have any 18 Charlies with us. And I was like, they're never going to let me go. And so, a week went by, and finally our first sergeant, and I love him to death, but our first sergeant came up and he's like, hey, can you show me how to work this mine detector, man? And he has a Chea version. I think it was 1 at the time. He's like, can you show me how to work this? Because I got to clear the route. I was like, no, but I'll go with you guys. He goes, I don't know if that's going to work, man. I don't know. I was like, look, I'm going to go. I need to be on this mission with you guys. And then I just built up this huge scenario. like what's going to happen if this, and this, and cache and demo and all this stuff. So I talked myself basically into a job to where they were like, all right, yeah, let's talk to the colonel. Let's, and the colonel and Command Sergeant Major Ruri were on the mission. So I knew that if I could beast this mission, then everything that happened in Panjwai was going to be forgot about because of this very difficult mission we were about ready to go on. And it was covering, I think like 2,000 feet in elevation in less than a click. It was pretty straight up and down. So I get approved to go on this mission. And basically what it was is there was this huge clearance mission operation. We called it in the belly button. And what the command team was doing was we were going in, and let's be realistic, it was one more shot for guys to get outside the wire before we redeployed, and the command element. And we were going in, and we were going to get at this elevated position and be able to battle track the maneuvering forces on the battlefield. It's like, all right, this is great. Yeah, we're going to do great stuff. But we can't land at the top. Because we don't know what's up there, and we see what looks like a Taliban repeater tower up there. It's like, okay, no landing on the top. So we're going to climb to the top. And so, and so I was able to get myself onto that mission. And it was, arguably, it's one of the hardest things I've ever done.
And I think you talk about it where there's one of the other support guys who's on that. Not to take anything away from him, because it sounds like you're hiking a seriously steep mountain, but who's kind of like, I can't take it anymore. I can't go. And you're kind of like trying to feed off of that.
Yeah. So we land, and, we, get out of the aircraft. We conduct our SILs, I think is, sight, sound, smell. I don't know, I'm a horrible Green Beret, but we do all that, and it's like, all right, time to push off. So it's like, all right, I got the heading on my 401. Let's start moving. And it's like, all right, this isn't so bad. And then it's dark. You can't really see anything. There's no illume, which is great for helicopter operations, but really horrible when you're on foot under green PVS 15s. And so, but we make it to the base, and it's like, yeah, that wasn't wow, that's really steep. And so from there, we just started following goat trails that were going up to the top. And what was really good about that was I didn't really have to clear the entire way up, because the Taliban have yet been able to hide a IED inside of a solid rock. And again, in my experience, maybe they have, but I don't think so. And so it was just rock face going all the way up. And we had a couple guys. One guy, he's just like, I can't go any further. Just leave me here. And it's like, that's great for movies, bud, but that doesn't work in combat. And it was just like, hey man, so we cross-loaded his stuff, and I knew I was sucking, but I was like, I got to carry more weight. The commander and the sergeant major, they'll see this. And I don't like to spotlight ranger it, but I had to for my career. And so give me his radio and stuff like that. And we get everything to the top, and it was just, I was probably not mission capable, but I was at the top, smoked, legs absolutely jello. The only thing that kept me able to step forward more was the IDEO I was wearing. And so, yeah, everyone's tracer burnout, and we get security up, and then guys are drinking water as they can. And all right, switch out security, get other guys out so these guys can be shoving MRE down, drink some water. Okay, and I remember that night, I was laying there before I got woke up for my guard shift, and I was like, man, I know what's going to happen when I take my brace off. I know my leg is destroyed, and this is going to be bad. But I took it off, and I had no hot spots. And I was able, for one of the first times after a mission, I was able to put full weight on my foot without that IDEO on. And as man, this just had to like, hey God, I appreciate that one, man. I needed that. And so, yeah. And then going down, it was just, you're working a whole nother set of muscle groups. And I had a come to Jesus talk with one of the guys. He, is like, you can't quit, dude. You got to keep moving. Just, it's in the book, but it's kind of,
yeah. And these guys are they're supporting an ODA. They're supporting, an element that is SF, but these guys haven't gone through selection, right? They're the support element. So they haven't gone through this grueling task that you have, certainly not with the injury you sustained. So you're kind of motivating them to keep it going.
Yeah. And not to mention, I mean, I've, in my SF career, I have been around some just extremely phenomenal beasts that are called humans that were our support guys. And so this was just, these guys just didn't know that. It's not that they weren't prepared for it. It's just, they they volunteered for a situation that, well, they didn't prepare for. But yeah, I mean, yeah, you don't have to be a Green Beret to be a stud. I've seen some guys that are just, holy cow, you are, for sure. You are the, yeah, I don't even know what to say. So, yeah, but yeah.
Is that kind of mission with you got the commander, command sergeant major, they see you. Is that how you get back out to the team?
So basically that's what got the spotlight off me. So we got back from that mission. Plus, I'm giving pep talks. I'll laugh about it, but I spotlight rangered myself a few times. Like, yeah, I'll grab that gear, man. I'll grab that gear because I know who's watching. And like they say in all special operations community, you're constantly being assessed. And so, yeah, I don't think it like changed people's mind. I think what it did was it got the spotlight off of me. So when it came time for the next deployment, the command has this list that these guys are non-deployable. Well, I've been on every non-deployable list. Every deployment I've been on, regardless if it's South Central America or Afghanistan. But every single time when it comes to when they're going through the personnel roster of these guys are the ones that are deploying and this is what our numbers are and stuff like that. It's like, why is this guy non-deployable? Oh, that's Hendrickson. No, he's fine. It's like, okay, good. And so constant battalion commanders are, because they don't really know me, but the sergeant majors do, or the team sergeants or whatnot like that. And they're like, oh yeah, that's Ryan. He's fine. And there was a funny incident that happened I'll jump forward a little bit, but the 2017 trip was they were going through the personnel that are deploying and whatnot. And so we got to my ODA. And it's like, well, why is Hendrickson non-deployable? New battalion commander. Well, we also had a new ODA team leader who's sitting in on there. And he had asked me, what happened to your leg? And so I told him, I was at the beach in Navarre, Florida. And, I'm just sitting there getting some sun, getting some sun and just doing what cool guys do. And I see these two kids that are like struggling out in the middle of the ocean. They're about 300 feet out and the riptide has taken them out and no one's paying attention to them. And so it's like, oh man, I got to save these kids. So I go running out there and, jump in the water and I got my boogie board with me and I swim out to them and, I grab the little boy, pull him up and put him on the board and whatnot. And I got the little girl in my arm and out of the corner of my eye, I see this fin pop up out of the water. And I'm like, okay, this got to be a dolphin. Or it's another one of those things your mind can't really, contemplate what's going on because I've never really seen a shark. So I was like, okay, so start paddling back. And at that time, some people on the beach are starting to look and they start moving out in the water and then they all go sprinting back. I'm like, man, that's a lot of help. Thanks, guys. Then I see the fin again. He's closer. It's like 20 feet from me. And then it disappears. And I don't know because it happened so fast, but people on the beach say that I got launched out of the water about 8 feet. And I'm still holding on to this little girl in my arm. And then this shark, this bull shark grabs my leg and he pulls me down. And I'm trying to fight to get to the surface because I'm going to drown. I can't breathe. And so I start doing the Shark Week stuff where I'm fish hooking his gills and I'm jabbing his eyes. And I remember his eyes roll back in his head and they're all just all white, and he releases. And oh man, I'm scared. And it's just red all around me. So I'm paddling as hard as I can. And I must have got pretty far because people run out and they grab me and pull me in. And then the medevac or the medics come, and they fly me to Pensacola and I get treated, and I'm like a hero. And I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. Didn't really think that he was sitting there like, oh
Damn,
this guy's a freaking hero. So fast forward to battalion commander going down this roster. What's wrong with Sergeant Hendrickson? Why can't he deploy? The story comes out. Other guys who know exactly what happened, they're like, oh shit, oh. And the battalion commander's like, so you mean to tell me one of my soldiers gets bit by a shark and this is the first time I'm hearing about it, explodes. And so our team leader came back and he goes, hey man, you got any more surprises I need to know about? I was like, what do you mean? He goes, shark, huh? I was like, oh yeah. He goes, you're good to go, man. But if you got any more surprises, you might want to let me know. And then he walks off and he's pissed, and he turned around and he goes, good story, by the way, and keeps
nice.
So,
oh, that's brutal, man. That's tough. I had a guy do something similar to me when I was a platoon leader, a dude who unfortunately lost his wife, and he had little kids. While he was deployed, his wife passed away, but I didn't know any of this. I came in, we're in a simulator, like he's running me through it, and there's a couple of other older warrant officers there, and they know I'm the new platoon leader. And I'm like, what, Jim, how come you're leaving? Because he was separating from the military. And he's like, I got caught with some really bad stuff on my laptop. He runs me through this whole thing, man. Yeah. And I'm like, what? How terrible is this guy? And then I'm in the simulator. I hear them all laughing. I come out and they kind of break it to me like, hey, LT, we're just breaking you in here.
Yeah.
So, oh, that's brutal, man.
Yeah. But that was the 60 or that was the 17 trip. But yeah, I went back in 12, and then we did 10 months there, and then a bunch of South Central American deployments, and then I got called up again in 16 to go back.
Take me to the mission, the Silver Star here, and talk us through this, please.
Yeah, definitely. So 2016, I get an opportunity to go back to Afghanistan. Another company needed a senior Charlie because for some reason or another, people were, manpower. They were kind of hurting on manpower. So I volunteered. Yeah, I'll go with you guys. So I clear it through our company. I'm good to go. So I go back to Afghanistan, and this time around, I'm a level 3, so I'm just going to be working paperwork and doing source work stuff, and it's going to be very non-eventful, but great opportunity. 6 months to get jacked, clean my liver out, and get another trip under my belt. Well, about 20, 25 days into it, I'm on the B team. For the company, I'm on the B team, and we get called up to go and support an ODA that is going to be clearing through a village just on the other side of the mountain in Puli Kumri, Baghlan province. So, and it's a Taliban hotbed. And basically what was going on was Taliban kept going up and sabotaging the power lines going into Kabul. And so, it was like, hey, we're going to need some help here. So the B team, we all go up there, and the ODA is like, hey, we're short on Charlies, man. We got a couple guys, but we got one guy, but he's brand new out of the course. So we're going to attach you to the ODA. Okay, good enough. So we start all the workups and everything like that, the training, and I'm meeting back up with the NMRG, the National Mine Reduction guys, the Afghans, and I'm already friends with them. I already know them. So because we're all on over at our FOB Duskin together, and so I brought my NMRG guys, and we meet up with everybody, and so now it's kicked. Now we fly. We finally get to Puli Kumri. We're at a Afghan NDS base there, so it's not an American base. We're staying on the Afghan base there, and now it's the day of the mission or the morning of the mission. So we infill into the area that we're going to actually conduct the clearance in. We're at the last basically safe area that has been cleared, to where we infill in Afghan Humvees, because what we were trying to do was we wanted to be just another Afghan commando element or Afghan army element to go in here. Taliban would engage us, kick the crap out of us like they've been doing to the Afghans, for at least 6 months up to that point. And then surprise, Americans are here, and here comes the full might of our air power just dropping in on you. So that was the theory behind it, and it was actually really good. So we infill in and we start our clearance, and it's slow. It's dark out. I think it's like 1 o'clock in the morning, and we're coming up to one of our first sketchy areas. And so when I'm planning operations for the clearance part, I do the routes, and I know, okay, like, hey, this is, and I look up on Palantir, like historic IED areas and whatnot like that. So I already have all this down. And the first like real sketchy spot that I actually have in my mind and marked off is this orchard leading up to the first compound we're going to clear. Well, orchards are really bad news in Afghanistan. I'm pretty sure it's the same in Iraq also, but not from experience. But orchards are bad news. You can hide your tunnels there, caches, and they booby trap the crap out of them. And so we come up to the first orchard, and it's like, all right, hey guys, we're going to clear ahead of the main element. And then as we clear, they're going to move up, then we'll clear and they'll move up. But what we don't want to have happen is everybody's kind of bunched together. And that's just the clearance op in general. The clearance element actually clears ahead of the main element. So myself and 4 Afghans, we're up in the front, and we're clearing about 25 meters in front of the main element. They still have overwatch on us. And then there was another, and then the B team actually infilled into an elevated position. So we're covered. We have overwatch, and we also have guys that, in case someone tried to flank us, they're covering our flank. So we start clearing through the orchard, and we get to a certain bend in the trail. And I remember I was up second man in the front. So the first guy was Jaweed, Afghan, and all of a sudden we hear this loud pop. So we hit the deck. And I remember I'm like, what is all over me? And it was some sort of line all over me. And then we realized we just hit a tripwire IED that they actually had at chest level going across the trail, but it low ordered. The blasting cap blew, but the IED didn't go off. So that's actually, because in my career, I've actually initiated 3 IEDs, 2 of them low ordered and 1 of them went off, but it only kind of went off. So I'm either not a good Charlie or very lucky. I'm not sure. I'm probably not a good Charlie, but
you found a bunch though. You found a bunch that you're not talking about,
Yeah.
Okay.
So we initiate this tripwire IED low orders. It's like, oh crap. Well, okay, missed it. Let's keep clearing. We got to get into this compound before daylight breaks. We want to at least have this part of the village secure, and it's abandoned. That's the other real fun part. The village is abandoned, which people listening to this know that's a really bad thing. So IED doesn't go off. We start to get around that bend that I was talking about, and I see this movement. This person, he sprints across from one part of the compound to the other. And I'm like, again, your mind is trying to comprehend what is that? Very quickly, the next thing I know, this PKM opens up on us from 17 meters away. And it was like the flame that shot out of that barrel. It was almost like you could reach out and grab it because it was that dark and you have nods on. And so it's just right up in your face. So PKM opens up. We hit the deck like you're supposed to. And then the entire wall of the compound is just muzzle flashes. And there is just a lot of firepower coming down on the area where they think we're in. So this entire time I have a strobe light on my helmet because I'm the lead element, and I have my IR strobe on. Number one, the team can see me. And number two, aircraft can see me. Yep. Well, the Taliban also had nods. And so they were on ICOM chatter saying, hey, we have an American cut off. He's the one with the flashing head. That's him. And so I remember guys on the radio screaming at me, like, get your, turn that strobe light off, get it off. They can see you. And so I grabbed it, and I don't know why I didn't just turn it off, but I grabbed it, and I remember kind of like posting myself up, and I threw it as close to where the PKM was firing at us as I could with it still going, thinking like maybe that will help direct in a strike or whatnot. So we're returning fire, and then this one guy, he keeps jumping out, and he'll Allah Akbar, and RPG will fly, and it'll fly over us and burst in the wall. That's like 50 meters behind, or 25 meters behind us. And because the trail we're on, there was like a foot of built up rock and dirt on each side. Well, about 6 inches built up rock and dirt on each side. So we kind of have some cover there. And so I'm on my side, and I'm trying to engage. And the third time that guy came out, I remember I could see my laser, and I had the IR laser on, and it went like, it was pointed directly at his chest. I was like, he just walked into my laser. It's not like I'm this badass shot. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I did that on purpose. No, he just happened to walk right there. So I just squeezed off as many rounds as I could and dropped that dude. It's like, all right, this is great, but we're still pinned down. We can't move. We can't retreat, because if we we can't fall back, because if you get up, you're getting gunned down, you're getting mowed down. And so the JTAC is trying to call in a solution, but it's not only danger close, it's literally 17 meters from where my position was at. And somehow they got approved. They had to get another platform overhead, and this has taken minutes, which in this kind of firefight is years. But we got approved, and an F-15 came overhead that ended up having a non-fragmentation producing 500-pound bomb. And so I guess it's a concussion bomb, or I don't know. I'm saying that all wrong. So please, whoever's listening to this, I'm not educated in that. But it didn't produce frag. It did something else, overpressure or whatnot. Yep. And so JTAC got on the radio and he's like, Ryan, this is going to be big, man. He's like, keep your head down, dude. And I'll never forget it. He said, good luck. It's like, damn. And I heard it scream overhead. And then the last thing I heard was weapons release. And so I just put my head in the ground, and Ryan Hendrickson, again, not the smartest guy in the room. I had on the Britney Spears mic set, not Peltors, no ear protection. So I, go up to close my ears, and I'm kind of trying to look, and all of a sudden this fear of God got put into me, because I realized that when that hits, I could get crushed by that rock in that mud hut, those huge boulders that are going to come down on us. And that thing came in, and it was just, it hit, and it was this flash and then this overpressure, but it blew right over us. And I remember looking up, and there's branches and leaves and grass and rock and dust and dirt and all the stuff just blowing over us, and you're getting pelted and stuff, and you're trying to cover up the best you can. But then it's like, okay, am I alive? I'm alive. Okay, all right, hey, we need to fall back. And guys are screaming on the radio, but it goes back to that whole explosion in 2010. It sounds like a distant tunnel, and they're yelling, Ryan, 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 and finally it's like, yeah, I'm here. And they go, holy shit, dude, fall back. Because they thought, if I don't key up, I'm in the orchard. They can't see me at that point. And so I key up, and I'm trying to stand up, but I kept falling over, and it was like you were drunk. And so, I grab my Afghans, and we're kind of stumbling back to, get some more withdrawal distance so they can actually bring in munitions to take care of this compound. And we fall back 25, 30 meters and whatnot. And I'm just laying in this ditch. I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe what just happened. And then after, they did another air to ground solution, and it's like, all right, hey, let's get in that compound now. So pick up, and I'm just trying to gain my composure, and it's like, okay, good to go. We get inside the compound, and by now, the sun's coming up, and we get inside the compound and we see bodies and whatnot like that. It's like, okay. And I just sit down. It's like, all right, security's up. And I just drop my gun and I sit down, and I'm just, holy cow, man. And I got my visions doing this number. And then I remember I wiped down because I felt something running down my beard, and I wiped down, and my hand is all red and slimy from this substance that's coming out of my ear. I was like, oh man. So then captain comes up and medic comes up. He's like, dude, are you good? And he's like, yeah, I'm good. Because I don't want to have what happened to me in Panjwai happen again. So I'm good. And that was the beginning of the mission. That wasn't anywhere close to what we were going to see that day.
God. So I didn't want to interrupt earlier, but 17 meters is beyond danger close. Like, I don't know if I ever took a shot when somebody was within that proximity. It's just that not only could you have been hit by a boulder, but if the munition is off at all, it could hit you. Like that is so close for an aircraft to strike. So I just wanted to kind of anchor that point home.
I think out of I've had a lot of guys that are just like, that's impossible, but I actually have, so the tick sum and the danger close call, I actually kept all that, and because guys are just like, there's no way, it's impossible, and I'm like, well,
it's possible, yeah.
But I almost
it's just a tight margin.
Yeah, I almost kept it out of the book because there were so many people, unless you're on that mission, that they were like, there's no way, or unless you were in the jock, because the jock was like, we just bombed our own guy. And then here comes, callous brain Ryan's like, yeah, I'm good. So
what happens next on this?
So we gain our situational awareness again. It's like, all right, all right, everyone's good to go. Pretty scary, but we need to continue clearance. So we continue through this village, and to say that it was booby-trapped is an understatement. During the clearance, I cleared 17 IEDs myself. My Afghan brothers, they cleared 40. It was absolutely booby-trapped. We blew up multiple 107 rockets that were actually triggered. There was one pressure plate that was on this footpath, this bridge on the footpath, and if you hit that pressure plate, literally a 107 rocket flies from however many meters back to that area and just hits you. So there was one, we were blowing up that, caches, but the whole place was tunneled. And it was weird. We would look at fighting positions, and, you throw a grenade into one of the tunnel entrances, and you'd get a very, very silent, just bip. It's like, wow, how deep is this? And so, we're clearing through, and it's getting about 3:00. So we kicked off at 11. It's getting 3 p.m. It's like, all right, we hit our LOA. It's like, okay, we're good to go. This pretty eventful, but it's we're gonna go ahead and we're the Americans. We're gonna head back to the base because the village is cleared. Hey, you guys need to stay here because this is cleared ground. We don't want the Taliban coming back in. So, hey, Afghans, you need to stay here. No, we're not staying. Well, what do you mean you're not staying? We just cleared all this. You guys brought us in here to clear this area out. We got to hold this ground that we've taken. It goes back as far as war does. No, we're not staying. You guys stay. You guys are the Americans. You stay. Well, no.
Yeah.
You didn't just clear a valley in Oregon somewhere. This is Afghanistan. So this whole while, there's this conversation going back and forth to almost literal yelling match going back and forth between the leadership and the Afghan leadership. And I'm up towards the front because I have my NMRG guys, and one of the commandos, I think it was their first sergeant or sergeant major, comes up, and with the Terp, he's like, "Hey, our guys that are forward said that there's a bunch of males moving in this direction, unknown males moving in this direction." It's like, okay, hey, Sergeant, this is what's going on. We need to start moving out. We need to get out of here. He's like, all right, yeah, hey, we got to go. We don't have a lot of time. We can't sit here and figure this out. But we're leaving. So you guys figure out what you're going to do. Well, then he comes up again, and the that same commando said, hey, those individuals disappeared. We don't know where they're at. And so we're like, okay, hey, we need to get out of here now. So as we were moving to exfil, it was like the entire just tree line and compounds that was in front of us just erupted in gunfire. And there was rounds that were spraying down the road. It looked like thousands of horses running down a road. That distinctive sound of AK fire was just, it was everywhere. And you could see the muzzle flashes in the tree line, and you can see this. And so what do? You got to get to cover. So first thing, guys get off the road. We're getting into the ditch, and we're trying to return fire, but these ditches are 6-8 feet deep. So once you're in it, you can't see over it. And so we're trying to figure out, what is going on. And we're trying to get air on station again. And then it's like, okay, hey, we need to, not stop for a minute, but we need to figure out the situation that's going on. And it's like, hey, we need air overhead, and we need it over here. And they basically said, we can't see where you need this air at, number one. And number two, we can't tell apart your guys from them right now, which basically means they're in your lines. Yeah. Well, what do you mean? And so, we're firing back and trying to do suppress fire and stuff like that. And then the dreaded call comes over the radio: eagle down, eagle down, eagle down. And then another one: eagle down, eagle down, eagle down. It's just like, holy cow. And then another one,
which is an American hit, right?
American hit. And so you don't know if eagle down means they're dead. You don't know if eagle down means they're wounded. We have no idea. So now you're starting to get all these radio calls of eagles down. And then you start to see the casualties. You're seeing, I can look up the road and I see a body in the middle of the road. Then I see another body that's kind of halfway out of the ditch. And I was like, oh no, this is bad. And then every time you poke your head up, they would have rounds on target. So they had snipers in the area, and we couldn't figure out where they were. And you would shoot where you thought they were at, but it wasn't, you couldn't accurately place rounds on target. So there was a point in time when, I was in the ditch, and across the dirt road, I can see that the Taliban have zeroed in on these 3 Afghans that were all huddled together in this little tiny, like, covered area, and they wouldn't move. And I kept trying to wave them over towards me, and they wouldn't move. And so I jumped out of this ditch, and I remember I was like, God, please help my leg hold up. And I just sprinted over to him, and I grabbed the first thing that I could get on a guy was his hair. And I just yanked him up, and the other 3 followed. And we went back to our location, and 2 of those guys had been shot in the calf. And so it's like, okay, we need to get a CCP. And so finally it's like, hey, we got a CCP over here, bring the wounded over to this area. So we look, and it's like, okay, that's the area they're talking about. Okay. So we start moving the wounded over the best we can. We're still getting shot at. So it's that duck walk when you're trying to drag someone, then you duck walk. Really good workout. But you're getting guys over there. And so, okay, CCP is established. We're good to go. Let's start treatment. Crack, 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 crack. So, oh crap, we got rounds coming in. Where are these rounds coming from? Well, the only thing that actually can put those rounds into this area is that building right there, because it's the only thing that can actually see over these, over the courtyard walls that we're in. It's like, oh crap. So we're trying to return fire the best we can. And finally, the air is like, hey, we got that building. We can identify, what is it? IFF. We can identify friend or foe. We're good to go. We're going to drop the building. Roger that. So they come in and they level this 2-story old school or whatever it was. So now, but we're still compromised, and we get another commando gets hit at this CCP. So now we need to move to another one because we can't set up an HLZ here, because anything outside those compound walls is all hot. So back across the dirt road again, where all the main firepower from the Taliban is coming from, and we're carrying dudes and carrying equipment and everything like that, trying to get to this new CCP that we established. That it's a secured building. It has an entire farm field behind it that has green grass in it. So we know there's probably a decent chance it's not IED'd. Because usually if it's IED, you can see the brown spots from where the grass has died. And so we go out and we clear it the best we can, as fast as we can with mine detectors, like, okay, HLZ right here, good to go. So then it's back down, and now it's time to, like, hey, we got to get out of here. So what do? Men, weapons, equipment. So now it's the head count. Do we have everybody? Yes, we have 4 Americans, WIA. So, okay, good to go. Those guys are on helicopters, medevaced out. Now the commandos, we have, I think it was 12 WIA. Well, at that point, I think it was like 8 WIA, 3 KIA, or 4 KIA, and 5 missing in action. Okay, this isn't good. We got to go find these guys. And so, we have little team, and it's like a search and recovery. And so we go back to the old CCP. Okay, there's a guy. Get his body back. Okay, we got another guy. Found another guy. Okay, one guy, the commandos, actually, he was killed, and a random vehicle pulled up, and they threw him in the back of it, and he left. Okay, there's another guy accounted for. We're missing 2 guys. Where's the last time we saw Abe, who was one of my Afghan mine clearance guys? When's the last time we saw him? Last time I saw him was at the footbridge, 500 meters up this dirt road. Up the dirt road. Yes. Where all the fire is coming from. Yes. And at this point in time, now we have air on station. We are consolidated to our area. We have the commandos the best we can. We're only missing 2 guys. And so now, they're hitting different targets and whatnot like that. But still, this dirt road, very sketch. And there's still random rounds coming down it. You'll poke your head out and you'll get that, random 3-round burst or 1 shot, with a dragon off or something like that. It's like, okay. So our JTAC, straight up hero. This JTAC saves so many lives. But he's like, hey, look, I got Apaches. This is what we're going to do. We're going to use the Apaches as diversion. So they're going to fly, and they're not flying up the road. They're at elevation, but they're going to gun around where we're going to be running. So the Taliban's head's going to be down because we got Apaches that are going to be doing a gun run, and we're essentially going to run behind them. It's like, okay, yeah, great idea. Wait, what? It's like, yeah, dude, it's so easy. No, it's perfect. And so we, there's a little argument there, and it comes to one point where I was like, I'm not leaving our guys behind. Like, I don't care. If we leave these Afghans behind, you will never be able to not look over your shoulder again, because they will blame us for it. I was like, we're going to get these guys. And that was my mindset. And then finally our JTAC, he cut in, thank God. And he's like, hey, look, Apache's coming in, man. So we're going. It's like, oh, thank you. So I remember we jumped out from behind this mud hut wall, and we had one ladder because we weren't sure if we were going to have to, look over walls or whatnot like that. And we just started sprinting up the road. And I remember I freaking fell on my face right off the bat. And I was like, oh man, did I just snap my IDEO? It's like, no, got back on my feet. I'm like, good to go. So just sprinting up the road. And the Apaches, they're doing their gun run and stuff like that. And there's 2 at a time. So it was working out however they do it. I don't know. It worked out, and it was really loud. And that's all I cared about. So we got up to the footbridge, and I remember I was like, hey, nothing past this bridge has been cleared, so be careful. and we didn't need to be. We looked in the ditch, and there was probably 3 or 4 feet of water in the ditch, and there was Abe and the one last missing commando. They were floating in the ditch, dead. And yeah, it was, and so it's like, all right, we got to get these guys out of here. So we jump into the ditch, and it's hard. It's so hard trying to pull them out of a muddy, slick ditch, because it's just very, he's 200 pounds, 3 feet of water. He's soaked in blood, so he's very slippery. And you're just trying to get him out of this ditch while guys are firing down this road, and it's chaotic. But we finally get him out of the ditch. We put him on our ladder that we were using. We were going to use to climb over walls. We actually use it as a gurney. Another couple guys, firemen, carry the one commando, which again, a dead person is very hard to fireman carry. So guys, we just made it happen, and we got them both back. And actually, had a medevac sitting there in the field waiting on them, and we put them on the helicopter, and it was like all men, weapon, and equipment accounted for. And I remember it broke my heart, because Abe and I had been together forever, and I know what people may think, like, well, he was Afghan. It doesn't matter. That guy was my brother. So, and he saved a lot of American lives. So it really bothered me. It still does today. But yeah, we were up. We were 100% up. And what we did that day, it proved and it solidified the fact that Americans will never leave a man behind. We won't do it on the battlefield, and we'll lose men to make sure that everyone comes home, regardless if we know they're dead or not. And I was really proud at that moment. Like we did it right. Because if the Taliban would have got their bodies, they would have desecrated them and used them as propaganda. But we were able to get Abe back to coast, where he could be with his family. They can bury him and everything like that. So yeah, that's one of the most proud moments I've ever had in my military career.
God, man, there's just so many, like, a lot of these experiences, most people like might have one of them in an entire lifetime of deployments. You just you're like Forrest Gump and gravitating to these things. Yeah. But it just seems like there's a lot of times where you could have taken, and I don't mean to say this lightly, where you could have taken an easy out, right? Like you didn't have to go back to combat with the leg, could have lost the leg. Yeah. You could have medically retired. Definitely didn't have to go back to a deployment. Certainly didn't have to go outside the wire. In a time like this, you come back to your base, your FOB, none of those guys would hold it against you if you didn't go and get the Afghan. Like I would imagine the other Americans there, you would have been okay, but you just held your ground. It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, it had to be done, because regardless of, that's the one thing when people say America's in such a bad situation right now, and we're this, regardless of color, language spoke, or flag that you're under, we will go back and get you. So I actually disagree with that. So we're still Americans, and we do value life.
So I know I've taken a lot of your time, Ryan. I just want to ask about the book. We've talked a lot about it here. Mm-hmm. I've heard it's very difficult to write one. I would like to do so one day myself. How did writing that book compare to the rehab and all this other pain you went through? Yeah,
so writing the book was actually so I had some issues, like mentally, with dealing with quite a bit of stuff, whether it was from my past or military or whatnot like that. And I remember, because we were doing back deployments, and so it was 2016 we come home, and we're getting ready to go back in 2017, and getting ready to go back in 2018 and whatnot like that. So I just had all this pent up, like I need to do something with everything that's on my chest. And so you can go to a bar and you can talk to your buddies about it, but then in the end, it's all just dead air. When you leave and he goes back to his life and you go back to your life, nothing was really accomplished. Maybe you feel better for that moment that you talked about it, but that's it. And so one of our chaplains, he was like, well, have you ever thought about writing? And I was like, no. I majored in writing in like the 3rd grade, but that was it. I didn't, no, I haven't thought about writing. Well, the 2017 trip rolls around, And I just like, I'm at just one of those points where I was like, I need to do something to decompress, mental decompression. And so I did. I opened up my laptop one night and I just started a little bit. And then next thing you know, it's just everything is flooding onto this Word document. And I'm just like, man, and it felt like every little bit I was taking off my chest, I was putting it on this Word document. I wasn't letting it go. It was right there that I can come back to, but it wasn't on me anymore. And I just kept writing and writing and writing. Next thing you know, childhood this and adventure this or this or this. So it got to a point, I've written, thousands of pages, and no, not thousands, I'm sorry, hundreds of pages. And now it's like, well, crap, what do I have here? So I start reading through it and then organizing it kind of the way you see in the book right now. And so I come up with this extremely rough draft of the book. But it wasn't a book. It was just so I can keep this diary for the rest of my life and maybe show it to my kids or whatnot. We'll give it a little bit of time. And now, curious cat, I want to know what people think. So I let a couple of my buddies read it. And if you want an honest opinion, let someone in soft, or ask someone in soft a question. You'll get an honest opinion. And they were like, dude, this is me, man. Like, I don't want to hear, let's go over here and talk. I don't want people to hear this, but dude, this is me. So I let my family, and it's like, like I've struggled with this. You don't have to step on an IED to be able to relate to what you're talking about and the life lessons and the struggles. And my book isn't all victories. It is tons of defeats and tons of pulling myself out of super dark places that, and that's what people were able to relate to. And so finally it was like, well, maybe this should be a book. Let me see what someone, what a real author thinks about this. And so I started emailing. I got caught up in the whole ghostwriting thing for a minute, and the guy scammed me for $5,000, which I hope I never see him. But so I decided, I just Googled military authors and I started emailing all of them, and I got some replies. But one lady, she actually replied and wanted a reply back, and her name was Lynn Vincent, and she was the author of Dog Company and the USS Indianapolis and stuff like that. So she replied back, and we got to chatting a little bit, and she's retired military, so she called a few people and like, yeah, this guy's the real deal. I was like, okay. And I don't mean real deal as in like stud. I mean real deal as in like he was actually in the military and he did these things. So okay. She said, I don't have the time because I'm working on a book right now, the USS Indianapolis, but I got a buddy you may want to talk to, and his name was Mike Yorkie. And so they got me in contact with Mike Yorkie, and he's a University of Oregon graduate. It's like, well, crap. So I send it to him, and he's like, yeah, I'll let you know, man. I got a lot going on, but we'll see. And he emails me back in like 2 days, and he said, this has to be a book. This wow, message,
man, that's awesome.
Yeah, this message needs to get out. So it went from Mike Yorkie, who he had a buddy that's an agent, Greg Johnson, who also is a University of Oregon graduate. And so he actually set everything up for it to be picked up by Hachette Book Group. And that's how it became a book. It didn't start off as a book. I was encouraged into the book part. And I was very nervous about it and putting my life on blast because, again, it's not this victory book. It shows the dark side of being a human being. And so I was nervous about it, but some of the responses that I've gotten back on it, I do feel that, it was definitely worth it because some of the responses I've gotten back, the book has apparently helped people get through some very, very dark times. And as a Green Beret writing a book, it's very hard to relate because it's like, well, of course he can do this. He's a Green Beret, or of course he can do this. He's a Navy SEAL, or, NFL football player, obviously. But the book shows how many times I've been punched in the face and how human I really am. And so it can relate to people. And that's what people said meant the most to them, was the fact that they could actually put themselves in my position, take the IED away, put in their situation, is like, this is me. So that means a lot to me when I hear people say that.
That's awesome. I will say, like, I read a lot of these because I interview guys who have written books, and it's really well written. So you should, if you want to tell Mike, but also to you, well done on that. I mean, it's a great read, but it's just so well done in how it's prepared.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So just 2 questions, and then I'll let you go.
All right.
The first was this one about, what did you take with you into combat that had sentimental value or served as a good luck charm? After the Ducks t-shirt gets cut off, did you go to a plan B after that for your multiple deployments?
So I still always sported a Ducks t-shirt of some type, but I would when I was in BAMC wounded, I was able to go and visit the Seahawks and Pete Carroll, and I got to see the whole team, and I went to a game and a couple of things like that. And the Seahawks gave me this flag, and I was like, cool. And so it meant a lot to me. And I remember that, I was like, I'm going to take this on every deployment I go on. And so I always kept that Seahawks flag up in my body armor. So I have an American flag that's in my kit, and I had the Seahawks flag. And once I retired from the Army, I went to Seattle because Pete Carroll and I, gotten to know each other a little bit over the years. But I went to Seattle, and through my buddy Mike Flood, who runs the PR for the Seahawks, they set me up to raise the 12th man flag for the game in November in 2019. So that was my retirement. And that day I was able to sit down with the entire team and Pete Carroll, and I gave that flag back to them, and it had bullet holes and everything like that in it. But I retired the flag back to Pete Carroll that he gave.
That's so cool. That's so cool. I mean, talk about full circle from a kid who spent a year in a tent growing up to this, full circle. That's really cool. All right.
Yeah.
And then the last question that I ask everybody, I know the answer for you, I believe, but you went through more than most with the injury that we've talked about extensively here, plus multiple deployments on top of that, put yourself in harm's way many times. Would you go back and do all of that again?
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, easily 100%. There's things I would do different, like maybe avoid the shit trench, or not try my luck 3 different times with stepping on IEDs or hitting tripwires. But 100%, I wouldn't change anything, because I firmly believe that the lessons that I learned in 2010 in Uruzgan province, the lessons I learned there, I was able to pass those lessons that I learned in blood, almost dying. I was able to pass those on to guys that I do believe have saved some lives. And so I would 100% go back and do it again. I would tweak a few things. Maybe instead of bullets are flying in, and like I said, choose the trench wisely or something like that. But I would do everything all over again, 100%.
Awesome. Man, thanks so much for the time, Ryan. We'll have links so people can find the book. I had it on Kindle. I listened to it. Both great options. People will be able to find you on social media. Thank you so much for the 2-part session here. I know it was a lot of time, but I really enjoyed it. I think other people will too.
Yeah, I had a blast. I mean, if there wasn't a time limit, this would be a 12-hour podcast. So
yeah,
but this is awesome. So cool. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much, man.
I hope you enjoyed this combat story. People often write to me with incredible stories and suggestions for interviews. If you want to share a combat story of your own or from someone you served with, record yourself for up to 5 minutes and email it to ryan@combatstory.com. I'll select some of these stories and feature them at the end of our episodes. Thanks for listening. Stay safe.